And welcome to the Howard Eskin Show. As always, I am so excited when I have great people to talk to and great guests, but I've known this man for a long time. At one time, I think he was an enemy of the Philadelphia Eagles fans, but he's such a good guy. So we'll get to Joe Theismann very shortly. But I want to, first of all, set up the show. I want to thank our partners, Piazza Property Pros. I want to thank Audi of Westchester. And I want to thank Cut the Cord with Jason. And before we let's take care of a little, I don't even call it business because I know these people very well. You want a pool, you want to get ready for the summer. You can do that before we get into everything we're going to talk about, football and all those things. And there's other sports we're going to talk about. I want to get you ready for the summer and bring in the experts directly to you, whether you're dreaming of a new in-ground pool. It's Piazza Property Pros, or pool renovation. It's Piazza Property Pros. They got you covered. 25 years of experience. They specialize in turning your vision into a reality with top-notch craftsmanship, unmatched customer service, all the work, and this is important, done by their own skilled team. That includes excavation, hardscaping, or fencing, landscape, pool maintenance. You can trust Piazza Property Pros. Exceptional results within your budget. Here's a number: 610-566-2608, 610-566-2608, or check them out on the internet, piazzaoutdoor.com, to learn more. Don't wait. Let Piazza Property Pros make your backyard the one you've always wanted. And now I want to get you in a automobile to get you to the places you want to go. And luxury is at Audi Westchester. And the showroom's beautiful, a large selection of automobiles, a new facility, state-of-the-art equipment. Their goal is to make buying or leasing a new Audi simple as possible with a pressure-free sales environment. Since Audi of Westchester is part of the Mainline Automotive Group, you'll have access to the largest selection of new and pre-owned Audi vehicles in the tri-state area. Stop by Audi of Westchester, located at 1421 Wilmington Pike, or check them out, AudiWestchester.com. You want a new car and you want a really nice car? AudiWestchester.com. And now you want to save hundreds of dollars on your cable, whatever you want to call it these days. Cut the cord with Jason. Jason offers, and this is unbelievable, and so many people have taken advantage of this with Jason. It's an incredible service. It'll save you money. He'll come out to your home, cut your cable off, set you up with less expensive internet service. We're talking hundreds of dollars. And with streaming services, which include all the local and national channels. So you'll be able to get all the Philadelphia Pro games. Let's say you have a second home, wherever it may be. Jason can set up that second home, one monthly bill. You don't get charged for the second one. For more information and to save yourself a lot of money, call Jason, 215-801-5858, 215-801-5858. And now our guest, and he's done so many things in football. I'm sure he's beaten the Eagles more than enough times. I don't know the numbers, but Joe Theismann may know him. 12 seasons with the Redskins. Didn't end the right way, but there's so many things that he can look back on. Two-time Pro Bowler. He won a Super Bowl. He went 2 consecutive years, won the first one, and he was an MVP in 1983. And the career ended, unfortunately for Joe, and we'll get into all that stuff, in the 11th game of 1985. Let me welcome Joe Theismann. Joe, I am so happy to have you as part of the program. I didn't like you when you were a Redskin, and there were Redskins back. I didn't like you. And then I got to know you through a friend of ours named George Michael, who people may remember. And that's how I got to know you. And I said, you know what? He's not a bad guy. I said he's not a bad guy.
Thank you, Howard. I appreciate it. I'm going to change this setup just a second. There we go. That's better. Here we are. Now I can talk to you. It's funny when you first started the show. I know you have such a background in as a disc jockey and being on radio. And I was listening to the music, and it took me back. I'm thinking Howard's just sort of reliving his youth, being able to have the music start the show. But it's great to be with you. It's great to have some time to spend with you and sort of reminisce a little bit and talk about the great accomplishment of the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean. You talk about a football team. That game was over after the first play.
Well, yeah, the playoff game. It's just that's what I
Well,
want
no,
to
I'm
touch.
talking about the championship game. The playoff game, I thought, you know, as far as the Commanders go, I mean, they went toe to toe with the Eagles on every occasion. And I was very proud of the way we acquitted ourselves this particular year as far as our football team goes. But what the Eagles did in the Super Bowl was nothing short of very dominant performance.
Yeah, I think Kansas City was ripe, and the Eagles, they were just a better team. I don't know that Kansas City was the best team in the AFC. And I like Andy Reid, and I like the people there, and there's a lot of the coaches there that came from the Eagles. I know them all. I don't think they were the best team in the AFC. Now, that doesn't mean the Eagles weren't going to win the Super Bowl, because they were better, I think, than any other team in the AFC. It, it's interesting to see the maturing of a team, the adding of players. Every step they got better. I don't know what you think of Nick Sirianni, but here in Philadelphia, after 4 games, that guy was tied down to the railroad tracks, and they couldn't wait for the train to run
Exactly.
him over.
They wanted the train to speed up, is what they wanted to do. And then, you know, of course, every little thing that's done on television in the NFL, you know, he turns and engages with the fan, and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, do head coaches do this? Head coaches shouldn't do this. And you know, the one thing that we forget so often in sports is that there's a process to accomplishing everything. And the worst word that people use is patience. You just have to be patient, let things develop, let the quarterbacks develop, let your football team grow and mature together. I think the way the Eagles were put together was phenomenal. I really believe that the job that was done there, Howard, it did an incredible job adding players, playing the right kind of players. I mean, you got the best offensive line in football, best defensive line in football. What did you expect? It all starts with those guys up front on both sides of the ball. Any team that wants to get better needs to look at the template of the Philadelphia Eagles and say, this is where we start. We can always find skilled people, quote unquote, in that regard. But to me, the guys up front on both sides are skilled people as well. But, you know, I look back at our football team when I had a chance to play for Washington. It was a defensive line and an offensive line. In the years we went to the Super Bowl, it was the same thing. It was something Joe Gibbs focused on an awful lot.
You know, when you look at let's still deal with this season. When you look at this season and you see the Washington Commanders, it's so hard to say Commanders so many times because we both know what the name used to be. But when you look at them, that NFC championship game the score was not indicative. The game was okay for a while, and then they just exploded on them. So my point now is how much closer have the Washington Commanders gotten to the Eagles?
You're so funny because every time you say Commanders, you have to pause to remind yourself. I know. Listen, I do the same thing. I do exactly the same thing. I think we're a lot closer than a lot of teams in the NFC. Our young quarterback is really great. Philadelphia has a great young quarterback as well. I think our running back situation is one they're probably going to try and look at. Offensive line, you always got to add offensive linemen. We lost Chin as a safety. So there are places that Adam Peters will be able to go out and be able to find people. But the nucleus of what Dan Quinn has done, building this football team, believing in this football team, and really, Howard, getting the fans back behind this football team in Washington, D.C. It looked like the stock market turning today from a very negative, difficult situation to holy mackerel, look at what we've got going. And now the tough part becomes for this football team because now there are expectations. For so long, the expectations weren't there. Now, all of a sudden, you accomplish what you accomplish, and people expect you to do this again. We expect them to be in the NFC Championship game. We expect Jaden Daniels to continue to get better and better as a quarterback. So the expectations now are going to be the toughest thing to deal with for this football team.
I remember, Joe, when you came in, and I wasn't as close to it, obviously being in Philadelphia and you were in Washington. Come out of Notre Dame, so you're a little hot shot. Coming out of anybody comes out of Notre Dame is supposed to be a hot shot. So you come out of Notre Dame, but now you're behind Sonny Jurgensen, who I knew well. Sonny was one of my idols because I remember him with the Eagles back in the 60s before he was traded to the Redskins.
Sure.
And obviously I got to know Sonny, but you're playing behind, what was it, a 40-year-old Sonny Jurgensen and Billy Kilmer. And nowadays, quarterbacks get right in. But then you had to wait. Why is it so much different now than it was? I think you waited 2 or 3 years before you actually got in or a starter, correct?
Actually, I waited 4 years. I joined them in 74 and didn't start till 78. Jack Pardee gave me the chance to start. George Allen really wouldn't let me start a little bit towards the end of 76 and 77, but it was Billy's position. I think that ownership, you want to see what you have now. Economically, you don't have the commitment you used to have because you're not paying these guys absorbent amounts of money. But you want to be able to see what you have from a talent level. I think everybody changes so quickly. I always think of the Pittsburgh Steelers and the patience of the Rooney family. Bill Cowher struggled through a couple years, and they didn't fire him. They gave him a chance to get the right pieces together, and all of a sudden he's a Hall of Famer. I really think that there's such an urgency to be able to have the team where you want it without understanding that the pieces take time to come together. And you have to be committed as ownership to give the person that you choose the chance to be able to build the team that you want and what they want to give to you as an owner. Mm-hmm. And we just don't see patience at all in the NFL. And to be honest with you, Howard, from a quarterback position, we don't have a lot of really good ones. You go through 32 teams. Who's going to give you a chance to win? To me, the list is 7, 8 guys that really give you a chance. And the reason why we see 40-year-old quarterbacks in this league is because there aren't a lot of young guys coming in that can replace them. Coaches would feel much more comfortable having an Aaron Rodgers or a Russell Wilson than they would trusting it to a rookie to be able to help them keep their job. At least you have an idea what you're going to get. And so there's this experience aspect that I think people look at as well.
When you look at Jaden Daniels, and he really looks like he's going to be a good quarterback. However, and this happens to people, and it happened to, C.J. Stroud. Didn't have as good a second year as he did the first year. Do you, you're still obviously connected with the Washington football team. I'm just going to call them the Washington football team. The hell with it. With the Washington team. Is there concern that that could happen to Jaden Daniels?
There's not. I don't see it as concern. CJ didn't play as well this past year. Everybody calls it a sophomore slump. I just think that people start to figure out who you are. If you look at the last 5, 6 games of the Washington Commanders, everyone was a nail biter. Everyone was down to the wire. Jaden did everything in every game he needed to do to help that football team win. Now, can you do that over a 5 or 6 game stretch by yourself? No. So I think this is where putting that team together around him is going to be so vital. I think the running attack is going to be very important to what they're going to be able to do. Adding Debo makes a world of difference. I think it's going to change the offense. It's like AJ in Philadelphia. You add a particular receiver, a guy, a degree of toughness, athleticism, a guy who is going to make 1 or 2 plays a game for you that can be game changers. And Terry McLaurin is a terrific football player. Now he's got somewhat of a complement with him. And then the tight end position is, I think, going to be another one that can continue to stay good. Zach's still there. Ertz is coming back for another year. Washington did a terrific job of taking the veterans, bringing in young guys, blending them together so that you can have the young guys learn from those that have been there. This is where I think this is where the genius of Adam was, in my opinion, is to be able to bring the youth and the veterans together and have Dan be able to meld them in such a way that certain guys in different days, in different games made plays. It wasn't always the same guy making a play in the games for him. But I really like the future. I just don't see Jaden, sort of taking the step back, I guess you could say, like CJ did.
Okay. All right. So now I want to get back to the coaches. Nick Sirianni, I think he's a really good coach. He gets the attention of the players. He's got respect. They like him. It's hard to get both. He's got both. He's creative. He does different things in meetings. So what? He gets their attention. Now
cares?
you had, and I want to know what you thought of the qualities of Joe Gibbs when you won the Super Bowl. Joe Gibbs, who we know was a terrific coach. What were the qualities that make a head coach that good and respected, and if they can do both, respected and loved by the players?
I think it has to do with leadership. Respect is the most important thing. You get respect by being honest with your players. Let me tell you something. Players can see through coaches as a facade, like you're looking through a clear glass window. They can tell who you are, who you aren't, and go from there. Joe was very honest with us. He put a great demand on us. We'd get tons of offense to be able to put in, and Richie Pettibone did the same thing on the defensive side. Joe surrounded himself with people he knew. And it's one thing to surround your people with a like mind that you have, but yet they still have the ability to be able to have a conversation with you and say, Joe, that's not the direction we want to go in. Now, I could never do that. I never got a game plan on Tuesday and say, well, Joe, what play do you like? What do you like? No, that didn't work that way. Our operation was purely a dictatorship. It was not a democracy when it came to the quarterback position. I didn't say, well, coach, what about this? He'd say, look, this is the play. This is where the ball is supposed to go. Figure it out. Okay, fair enough. I had 5 different receivers to choose from, and I had to go find the right one. But Joe tried to do 3. I look at Joe and I think of what did he look for? And I asked him one day, what do you look for in a championship player? He said, character, intelligence, and ability. I said, come on, Joe, everybody wants those things. He said, no, that's the order in which I look for things in players. Character. We were a bunch of characters with character. There were no wilting flowers on that football team. Every guy wanted to be the one that made the play that made the difference. Intelligence, like I said, we put a lot of stuff in a very short period of time. And he continued to challenge us. And I think that was part of the success that we had early on. Because, he gets there in 81. We're in the Super Bowl in 82. We're in the Super Bowl in 83. And it was the fact that he could continue to change and present things to us so that we could embrace it and then make it work on the field.
Yeah,
one of the greatest callers I've ever known in my life.
But it's different nowadays. You said that Joe Gibbs said, this is the way it's going to be done, and you've got to do it. Now, coaches, and this is where Chip Kelly didn't, and I still get along with Chip, but I know he's a different kind of guy. It was his way, whether it fit with the players he had or not. Yeah. In the case of now with the Eagles, they worked with Jalen Hurts until he didn't want to take a snap under center. Right. He didn't feel comfortable with that. And Kellen Moore felt that the running game could be better if the quarterback took the snap under center. So they worked with what Jalen Hurts was comfortable with. So the coaches more so, do you believe that the coaches more so today have to work more with the players than they did when you played?
No, I think they worked equally as hard. I really think that a little bit of the difference is you don't get the same product. And you brought this up earlier. You don't get somebody who sat for a while, who learns the system, who understands what you're thinking, understands what you want. You've got a quick study guys right now. Now, you get Jalen under center. He's not used to it. He's not comfortable with it. Right. But now all of a sudden you get him for a year or two. It's like, okay, let's move to the next phase. I had this conversation with Tom Brady, Howard, and Tom and I were talking about the process of learning. He said, every practice I learned something new. Every game I learned something new. And that's really the way it is in football. If you're not willing to learn at every turn to get yourself better, to help the football team win, then you're not going to be a quarterback there very long.
There's so many different things when you look at a football team, but I want to take you back a little bit. I don't know how many times you beat the Eagles. It was probably more than you should have. But
I don't know about that.
But do you remember any specific games or plays with the Eagles, against the Eagles?
And there was the one game we beat them in overtime in Philadelphia. We had to get in a position to be able to tie the game, and then Mark Mosley kicked the field goal, which, by the way, Nobody ever talks about Mark Mosley. He's the only kicker in the history of football, to be an MVP of the National Football League, 1982 MVP. If it wasn't for Mark and his ability to kick, that was a year he set a record.
Right.
Of, I think it was 23 or 24 consecutive field goals at that, which pales by comparison now, but still back then it was quite a feat. I had to get him in a position to be able to make the kick. And it's funny, I was the holder. See, as the quarterback and the holder, Howard, I knew exactly what his distances were. During warmups, I knew exactly what the wind was like. Because, see, I could take and turn the ball because he was a straight-on kicker and have the laces be like a sail on a sailboat. And I could direct almost like, we'd face the laces into the wind if it was coming out of the right. So we, sort of have the benefit of a little bit of a hook, which I've never done on a golf course. If I hit a ball right to left on a golf course, it's not me. It's got to be an out-of-body, experience for me. But no, it was I think there was the game in Philadelphia. I think we managed to tie the game, and we managed to go on and win the football game. But I do remember, also being in Philadelphia, we had a mascot by the name of Chief, and of course it was around Christmas, and we played the Philadelphia Eagles, and this is a true story, and I respect the Eagle fans, and no other stadium had a magistrate's bench in it. I guess that's all you really need to know about the rabid nature of the Philadelphia Eagles fans. Okay? All right, that wasn't just something somebody made up, Howard. I mean, it was there, and so we're getting ready for the next game, and I see Chief, and he's got his arm in a sling. And this was right around Christmas. I said, Chief, what happened? He said, you're not going to believe this. He says, I'm at the Eagle game, and Santa Claus threw me out of the stands. And I said, what? He said,
everybody plays Santa Claus.
Some Eagle fan dressed up as Santa Claus sort of escorted me out of the stands. And it was like, there were all these things that the Eagles, the Eagles would boo the opponents, and they would boo the home team if they didn't like what they saw as well.
Oh, yeah, but, they did a lot of all that.
It was a very interesting crowd to play in front of. Plus the stadium. See, we use those multi-use stadiums where they'd cover up home plate with AstroTurf tacked onto a plywood board, and you'd have like an inch sticking up where you could easily break your ankle. Not that anybody cared. It was St. Louis and Philadelphia in particular were the two fields that were multi-use. So and boy, when AstroTurf first came in, you may as well play in your living in your your dining room or your den rug. It was horrible, and you get burned up. I got to tell you a funny story. So one funny story. So we're playing the St. Louis Cardinals, St. Louis last game of the season, and it's a rainy, miserable day. It had frozen. The field had frozen, and someone in their infinite wisdom decided they wanted to put rock salt down on the field so that it would thaw. So at the end of, put salt in a wound. You're sliding around. All of a sudden, the guys get in the showers, and all you hear is guys screaming, ah, 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 ah. The burning sensations were unbelievable.
It's incredible.
The things that we went through, yeah.
I've got 2 touchdown passes. I got some video, 2 touchdown passes where really, you're a good quarterback. You were a good quarterback. But some of these passes, and Joe, why don't we, if we can play this video, I want to see the touchdown passes where you, all right. So on this pass, this is wonderful. Now, it was tipped, and you get a touchdown out of it. Come on now. I mean, it was tipped. Now, here's the beauty. Nobody tackles today, but they didn't tackle back then.
They didn't tackle any of it. But Charlie was really elusive and fast. Charlie Brown was our fastest receiver. And once he got going, you weren't going to catch him. Now, balls that get tipped, quite often, if a ball gets tipped somewhere, you just hold your breath as a quarterback. Because it can go one of 2 ways, like it did to Art, or it could wind up in an Eagle hand. So you just sort of hold your breath and go, okay, fine. We got it. I'm sure there was maybe 1 or 2 other passes that I threw were touchdowns that were okay. But of course, you wouldn't show them because of your allegiance to the Eagles. I understand.
I'm busting your balls. That's you can say that on a podcast.
Hey, I'm waiting for my tasty cakes. Okay.
You know what? I'm going to tell you something. Now, we're going to get the order right now. You like tasty cake jelly crimpets?
Jelly crimpets. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I like the butterscotch too, but I love the the jelly crimpets. Yep, absolutely love
Okay,
them.
so we'll take care of that. So we're going to take care of tasty cake. Now, you're not into the butterscotch, or you like the
Yeah,
butterscotch?
the butterscotch too. Yeah,
Okay, all right.
if
I like the
if
tasty
it's
flavor.
tasty cakes, it's for me.
Okay, I got you covered on that. All
Thank
right. What is so? Tasty cakes don't change. I was a little kid. I was eating tasty cakes. All right. What has changed with football when, let's say, in the 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s to the way it is today?
First of all, the amount of practice time that guys and coaches put in because of the length of the season. I came into the league when we had 14 games. We didn't have, when I was at Redskin Park, we didn't have, our weight room was a universal gym. That's what it was. Today, these gyms are 20,000 square feet. You have every piece of equipment you could possibly imagine. You have off-season training. We didn't really do that training in the off-season as much. I think as a group, you get a much better conditioned athlete simply because that's what they do nowadays. They invest the time in getting them ready. The time to have a guy play, they were willing to sit a guy and let him learn a little bit, and then all of a sudden, then give him a chance to play. You don't see that right now. Like we talked about, you're putting guys on the field right away. You run the risk of, sometimes you get a Jaden Daniels, and then sometimes just, as a Sam Darnold, for example, it took him a couple places to be able to find himself to be able to play the kind of football that I'm sure he hoped that, the Jets had hoped that would have been able to play earlier. The size of the athlete, I think overall is bigger. Mm-hmm. I think they are faster, and a lot of it has to do with the off-season conditioning. And people will say, well, the athlete of today is different than the athlete of yesterday, or the athlete of today is better than the athlete of yesterday. And my comment to that is if that's the case, why are so many of the guys that played yesterday in the Hall of Fame? And some of these guys are going to be there as well. But we had exceptional athletes. We had incredible. Bob Hayes was the fastest guy in football. I mean, our defensive line, Dave Butts, Darryl Grant, Dexter Manley. They were incredible guys up front. Our offensive line had a nickname. There aren't many lines in football that have ever had nicknames and have lived up to it.
Joe, when you think about, okay, now the rules have changed where you can't touch the receivers. You can't. So the offense, obviously, they want more points. How much? And I don't know if you can, clarify it in numbers. How much better would your numbers have been if you played when the rules as they were today? You can't even breathe on a wide receiver anymore, it seems like.
Right.
The numbers are escalated a little bit because of all that, correct?
Yes, they are. I think if one thing that would have been affected would be the pass completion percentage, because guys get open a lot quicker. As a matter of fact, in my observation of football, the guys that have become the laziest as far as running routes are the wide receivers, because they know after 5 yards, they're not going to get hit. When I had a chance to play in our wide receivers, you were getting banged on all the way down the field. You had to work your tail off to get open. And nowadays you get past 5 yards and you don't see the preciseness in the routes as much. And I say this sort of affectionately from a laziness standpoint, they don't have to work as hard because they don't have to work as hard to get open. But the ones that do invest the time in giving the hints, the ones that work to get open, they're the ones that always seem like they're wide open. And there are a lot of guys that just, they get muscled for 5 yards. They have to get turned loose. And then, then there's that little thing that doesn't quite work out for them. They haven't really trained themselves to get away from the defender because they don't have to anymore.
No, it's different. All right. I want to touch another part of your career. The last game obviously was really, really difficult, and there's no way I want to, you probably understand it now. I'm not showing that video. You ended your career when your leg really, it's just unbelievable, but it was Lawrence Taylor. So it's a sense of pride, I'm sure, on your part, because it was one of the greatest linebackers that ever played the game. But nonetheless, so you rolled in after your career, and then you got into television and movies. And I'm going to tell you something. I am a Hallmark. I do like Hallmark movies.
Thank you.
Okay, don't hold it for those people out there. Don't hold it against me. I like
No,
Hallmark movies.
no, that's the soft side of you, Howard, that people don't get a chance to see all the time. It's so nice of you to say that.
All right, and I'm going to play a clip. Love on the sidelines. I'm going
Right.
to play a clip from one of your movies. All right, Joe, let's go with it.
Thanks, Dad. I appreciate all the help. You know what? I'm going to give it a try now.
Whoa, slow down, champ. The doctor said you had to take it easy for the first week. You have to rest it and keep icing it.
Dad, if I rest too long, I'm liable to become another has-been.
We both know that's not going to happen. You're going to be all right, son. You're going to get through this.
I'm not good at sitting around.
I know it's hard what you're going through. But you know what? This is not the end of your career.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Now, what do we say in this family?
I know. Never settle for the sidelines.
That's right.
Love on the sidelines, and you were the dad of a football player
Who broke his leg?
What's that?
Who broke his leg?
Yeah.
What's the irony in that? Huh?
Broke his leg. All right. So now, how did you get into movies and television?
The first movie I did was it was a movie with George Raft. I played his bodyguard, and had the chance to be around the movie industry out in California. I lived in California for a while. Then Burt Reynolds became a very, very close friend over a number of years, and Burt put me in Cannonball Run 2, which had an ensemble like you wouldn't believe. Burt Reynolds, Dom DeLuise, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Frank Sinatra, Mary Lou Henner, Catherine Bach, Shirley MacLaine. I mean, it went on and on and on. And so it sort of wet my whistle. And then one of the producers from the Hallmark channels asked me if I'd be interested in doing that one. I did another one called Snow Coming, of which Eddie Marinero was in as well. So I've had a chance to do some movies, but you challenge yourself, the opportunity to be able to try something different, just sort of, I call it just step outside that silo and box that we create for ourselves. Can you do it? And it's like my first broadcast, Howard. See, a lot of people know I played in Super Bowl in 17, but a lot of them don't know that I broadcast Super Bowl 19 with Frank Gifford and Don Meredith. That was my first broadcast as a broadcaster. I had a chance to do a Super Bowl.
Technically, you're still part of the roster of
yes,
the Washington.
There's only two players in the history of football that have broadcast championship games as active players. Jack Kemp was the other one. And so Roone Arledge just said he wanted me. He was delighted when the Chicago Bears beat us, because then he said, I have a chance to get in the booth. And he gave me the opportunity to get into the booth with those two guys, and fantastic people, just so genuine, so willing to help. Here you are, you're doing a Super Bowl you're in broadcasting for the first time. All of a sudden now it's not like it's an audition of a C game someplace else.
Right.
This is the big show, and all eyes are on you.
The broken leg is it's just, by the way, Joe, just to let you know, I got my leg broken during a game too on the sidelines.
That's right. I remember.
It was the year they won the Super Bowl, 2017, Christmas night.
Yeah.
And I forget who the corner was for the Raiders. He tackled Torrey Smith way out of bounds. I was far enough out of bounds. And he leg whipped me because I think Torrey told me later he relaxed and he leg whipped me, and I thought I was out of the way. And I went down, and I think I blacked out. And I don't know what happened when you broke your bone pains, brutal. So I blacked out, but it was only the fibula. You had the fibula and the tibia broke.
Yeah, I only did the fibula once when I was in Canada.
Yeah,
I only broke one bone up in Canada in 1972.
Yeah, and I worked the game. It was painful, and I got to say, I thought it was a bruise. And then 10 days later, I finally got an X-ray, and I saw the bone was cracked all the way, but it wasn't displaced. So I didn't tell anybody because I wanted to work the games, and I couldn't work it if I had a boot or I told them I had a broken leg. So I just worked the game. But I finished that game.
I finished that game. That's you, Howard. That's just you being you, man. All these years I've known you, what a little broken leg going to keep you from doing what you want to do? Never.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I didn't get it broken in half. That was the difference, and that's terrible to even bring that up. But Joe, I want to touch on some other things which are really part of your life too. You still have restaurants, is that correct?
we have one in Alexandria, Virginia. Yeah, still called Joe Theismann's.
And I went there when the Eagles were there one time. I remember you
Yep.
were getting an award at halftime in Notre Dame. I called you and you actually got back to me.
Yeah.
You were at Notre Dame. So I ate there. Very, very good. I was
Thank
in
you.
Alexandria because the Eagles stayed in Virginia when they played
Right.
Washington that year.
Yep.
So you still got the restaurant. Are you still on the board of St. Jude's Children's Hospital?
It's the Sports Advisory Board of St. Jude. Yes.
Okay. All
I'm
right.
still
And
involved
that's
with St. Jude. As a matter of fact, I'm just in the process of redoing my website, and I wish I'd have done this many, many years ago. On the website, people send us all kinds of things to sign: helmets, jerseys, cards, pictures, requests, all kinds of things. And on there, there's a menu of what I ask for as a donation for St. Jude if someone wants me to sign something. I don't want any money. I don't take anything. I want to provide the opportunity for people to be able to make a contribution to St. Jude and be able to raise the money for the families and for the kids that are in need of it. I mean, it's what a place that is. I mean, it's a place of hope, a place of dreams. And my daughter actually was operated on at the Children's National Medical Center in Washington, D.C., of which I do some work with as well. But I think that, kids are so precious. And to be able to see a smile on a child's face or to be around parents, because, when the children are being treated at St. Jude's, it treats everyone. It treats the family because everyone is affected. Obviously the children are, but everybody involved in the family, it's an emotional ride that is incredibly difficult. And just to be around the families and look at the strength that they have. We look at athletes and say, oh, they're really strong. No, you're just, God gave you a gift. And these people are out there fighting like heck for their families.
That's the most important thing. When you have a platform, and I've told this with other people when we talk about fundraising and like the big five coaches in Philadelphia, the basketball coaches have the Coaches versus Cancer, which is part of a national thing now. And you have a platform. Julius Erving told me this when I was young in my career because his sister had lupus and it was a fundraiser for lupus. And it's just, we have a platform. His obviously is much bigger than mine, but you got to utilize that platform to help people. And I always felt that was important. And there's more and more athletes nowadays that do it. You obviously understand it, and it's important for people to do that. And it's a credit to you and athletes. And you got to find more guys today that share time to help people. It's such an important part of life because they have the platform to do it.
Yeah, we're provided, the recognition that you get. You work hard to try and be as good as you can be at your profession, and you get recognition. And it took me a while to understand this, Howard, but we're put on this earth not to be served, but to have the opportunity to serve others. And so many guys and women do it in so many different ways through foundations and charities and the work that they do. And it's, that's why, the Super Bowl trophy is a great award, but the Man of the Year that I received in 1982 was even a little more special to me because it had to do with the involvement in the community, the people that supported me as I went out and did my job. And to be able to say that you were a Man of the Year, I think is one of the greatest honors you can have in professional football.
Yeah, it's just it's an amazing thing for people to share and help. I did work with the Eagles. I didn't work; it was a labor of love, I guess, to help them with their autism challenge.
Sure.
And I've raised probably around helped raise around $700,000. And then when you saw the families of those people and they thanked you, you realized how important it was to the families of people to do those things. And sometimes it didn't take that for me, but sometimes it takes that for some people to realize, what, this really is important.
It matters. It matters.
Yeah.
And, one of the guys that, for a dear friend, Ron Jaworski,
Yep.
the work that Ron does in the Philadelphia area
Yes.
and his charity and his golf tournament and, the type of a person he is, if you've got children, you want them to grow up like somebody, let them be like Jaws, because he has the biggest heart in the world and wants to do everything he can to help people, accomplish and go through tough times in life. He wants to help them get through it.
All right.
Plus, he owns a lot of golf courses.
Yeah, he's doing real well. He's got a golf tournament coming up in June.
Now, yeah.
Yeah, he's got a golf tournament coming up in June. All right, two things here. All right, you talked about one of the good guys, and that's Ron Jaworski. Who was the Eagles player that you probably disliked the most, whether it was when you're playing or now?
Bill Bergey.
Really?
Because he never shut up. He would just talk and talk. You know, you get to the line of scrimmage and you try and call plays, and Bill would be yep. It's like, Bill, just stop. I got a job to do. Literally, I get to the line of scrimmage, I'd look at him and he'd open his mouth. I go, please don't. Please don't. Okay. But, you know, in an affectionate way, he was the guy that really was a big
and it was a fan favorite. I don't know. You have people, I'm sure, that you communicate with on Twitter or X, whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter.
At
or
Theismann,
X, I guess it is, yeah.
At Theismann7 is where you are there. And again, I want to give another shout out, and may he rest in peace, George Michael, who we both knew. I worked with George spinning records. You worked with George when he did all kinds of football stuff for the NBC station in Washington. Wonderful guy. The one thing I noticed about George, and if people may remember the Sports Machine, and I was a part of that for 11 years, was when there was an important player after a big game in the Super Bowl, he always was on the field doing his Sports Machine. He always got the key player, usually the quarterback, before the networks. I mean, it was amazing. George had so much respect, but may he rest in peace. He was an important guy for both of us.
He was a true pioneer, Howard, as you have been. I mean this in all sincerity. We've been friends for a long time, but you continue to do things in the Philadelphia area. You continue to be a staple in that area when it comes to the fans and the things that you're able to, the insight that you're able to share. And George was that way. And you do it. And it isn't always, oh, well, you know, they're this or that. They're really good. No, you're honest and sincere in your assessment of situations. And I think people appreciate that. You know, their eyes tell them what's going on. I tell people all the time when they come up to me and say, well, you know, I don't know as much about football as you do. Well, no, you didn't play the game like I did, but you're a fan like I am, and you see the same things that I am. So you have as much validation in your opinion as I have in mine. Just because I was there doesn't change the fact that it's not what I don't see. And as an announcer, it's a real simple philosophy. It's the what and why of the game of football. The what is what your eyes tell you what you see. The why is our job as analysts to tell you why that happened. That's why they pay, God only knows the amount of money they're paying these guys today to be able to talk. And, you know, and I just, you know, to me, it was a great honor to be at ESPN for so many years in the NFL Network and to stay around the game that I love so much. Played it for 15 years and broadcasted for another 23 after that. So, and the people I met, you know, of course, John Madden being the monarch of all of ours, being able to be around John and watch him work and learn. And, you know, it was just, and I worked with Mike Patrick and Mike Tirico and of course, Paulie McGuire. Paul was a
lot of guys.
Paul, I tell you one quick story. You know, we get ready for a game. We do a production meeting. So we're sitting in a production meeting and I'm taking notes. Coach is talking and Paul's just sitting there. So after the meeting is over, I said, Paul, you didn't take one note, not one note during this entire meeting. What are we going to talk about tomorrow? He says, Joe, now I want you to listen. I want you to listen real good. How are you supposed to hear what somebody's saying while you're writing stuff down? I said, well,
that's actually a good point.
I know, but you know, you can't do it, Paul.
I know.
How are you possibly able to do it? And we laughed. I mean, it was so much fun just being around. And then, you know, the latter part, Tony Kornheiser came in and worked for a couple of years, and it's been a lot of fun. The ride for me, I've been blessed beyond any belief I could possibly have. The friends like you that I've met, the people I've had a chance to learn from, the opportunity to be able to give back. And I wasn't always this way, Howard. I was a selfish person. I was an egotistical individual who felt like I was the reason why things were going well. And then when my leg got broken, I learned a great lesson that, you know, and it really goes to the story that I'll tell you the last quick story about Lawrence and I. He had that bar up in Route 3 up in Jersey. One
Mhm.
night he invites me in. This is after the leg is broken, about 4 years. We're sitting down. Both of us are facing away from the television set, and they play the injury. And I turned to Lawrence and I said, listen, we're going to be connected through this thing for the rest of our lives. We know how it affected me. How did it affect you? He said, Joe, I learned a great lesson that night. No matter how great you are at what you do, it can be over in an instant. That every day you have to get the most out of a day. Every day you have to be the best you can possibly be, because you have no guarantees for tomorrow. And I thought that was one of the best statements I've ever heard. Is that
Coming from Lawrence Taylor too.
it,
Yeah.
and that next year he became the defensive player of the year.
Wow. It's unbelievable. Well, I do really appreciate this is it's fun for me to talk to people, and these are not interviews, these are just conversations with two guys
Yeah.
that really know each other
Right.
and having fun, and that's important. And do you still do the Redskins preseason games?
I don't do the preseason games anymore. I do. As a matter of fact, the reason why I'm sitting where I am is I couldn't get the internet to work in my room. I'm on the road doing motivational speeches.
Yeah, and you
Um,
do speaking, and people can go to your website and figure
yeah.
out how they can get a hold of you, and
Yep.
and you can speak. All right, so we can do that too. And the last, I just want to write this down. Okay, tasty cake, jelly
Tasty cake,
crimpets.
jelly crimpets, and the
Okay,
butterscotch too, but
butter.
more jelly crimpets.
I like. Hey, listen, I like them all. I like the tasty Clairs, little banana cream, but
Oh
that's
yeah,
all.
I haven't really leaped out there, but I'm sort of I know what I like, and I love my crimpets.
Okay, you're good. I got you covered. I'll get an address to send it to, and the next time I'm down there, I'm going to your restaurant in Alexandria. So you're traveling all over the country, but I'll figure out when you're down there.
Let me
And
know when you're going to be down, and I'd love to join you.
okay, perfect. All right, thanks so much, Joe. Joe Theismann, who is legendary in Washington, not particularly cared for in Philadelphia, but he's a good guy now. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Howard.
All right, enjoy the West Coast. Take care. Joe Theismann, what a great, great, great guy. A little bit of a hot shot, because anybody that comes out of Notre Dame, obviously you think is a hot shot. You don't think, they got to get back to reality. Once you come out of Notre Dame, you're not the best of everybody. But I guess the last two really good quarterbacks to come out of Notre Dame were Joe Theismann and Joe Montana. I can't think, who was the guy? Guy was like the third pick in the draft, but whatever the case, he wasn't. Forget his name now, but he wasn't all that. All right, there's some other things I want to talk about. Obviously, the draft is coming up, and Saturday we're going to have Chris Sims on the show to talk about the draft. And that's really important because people want to know about the draft. It's coming up in a couple of weeks. But I do want to talk that. Before I get to that, I want to talk about our great, great partners. And the first one I want to talk about is Piazza Property Pros. It's that time of the year. I know it's in the Philadelphia area. It's a little cold, and it's just, it's rainy. And so, hey, listen, summer season and time to have fun is coming up, and you can transform your backyard with Piazza Property Pros. The experts, you can talk to them directly because they'll come to you. Whether it's an in-ground pool or pool renovation, Piazza Property Pros has got you covered. And they got you covered with over 25 years of experience. They specialize in turning your vision into what is a fun reality with top-notch craftsmanship, unmatched customer service, whatever you want, whether it's landscaping, whether it's pools, whatever it is, pool maintenance, you can trust Piazza Property Pros to deliver exceptional results on time and within your budget. Here's a number, 610-566-2608. You can schedule a free consultation. That number, 610-566-2608, or on the internet, piazzaoutdoor.com to learn more. Don't wait. Piazza Property Pros, they got you covered, and you're going to have fun when they take care of business, and it's actually going to be fun for you. All right. And to get there, this is how you drive there. With a new Audi from Audi Westchester. Actually, you can get a pre-owned Audi too. Whether it's new, whether it's pre-owned, they can take care of all that. for you. The new facility, it's a state-of-the-art facility, whatever you need, and they have a selection that's bigger than anybody. Now, the goal is to make buying or leasing a new Audi as simple as possible, pressure-free sales environment, and the people there, I've been out there, and I'm going to stop there Thursday this week whenever you hear this. Audi Westchester, part of the Mainline Automotive Group, so you'll have access to the largest selection of new and pre-owned Audi vehicles in the tri-state area. Stop by Audi Westchester, located at 1421 Wilmington Pike, and you can check them out at their website, AudiWestchester.com. That's AudiWestchester.com. And you want to save money to take care of the other things? You can do that with Cut the Cord with Jason. A lot of people have taken advantage of this service. It's a streaming service with YouTube. Jason offers an incredible service. It will save you money, hundreds of dollars. He'll come out to your house, cut the cable off, set you up with less expensive internet service, streaming services, which include local and national channels. So you'll still get to see all the Philly pro games, every one of them. It's all on there. And let's just say you have a second home somewhere, or you have somebody that has a second home, whether it's a family member. Jason can set you up with one monthly bill. It's just one charge for both houses. For more information and to save money, and that's the important part. Cable is just too much money, and it's just too much, way too much. Call Jason, 215-801-5858. That's 215-801-5858. All right. The draft. And Chris Sims, and that's why I didn't get into it with Joe Theismann, because I wanted to have Chris Sims do that on Saturday, and he's scouted all these. He'll tell you what he thinks the Eagles need to go through the whole deal. All right. But there's so many moving parts. When you draft that late, the Eagles are going to make a trade. They're going to make a trade. They're going to make a trade. Somewhere along the line in the draft, they're going to make a trade. That's why they have all those draft picks, so they can use those draft picks to trade down, to get higher in the first round or lower, whatever way you want to put it. They're the last pick in the first round now. I would almost bet that the Eagles will not have the last pick in the first round. I'd almost bet you they won't have the last pick in the first round. So again, Chris Sims on Saturday, we'll talk about it. All right, now let's talk a little baseball. And here's where I had a problem on, Tuesday night. The Eagles played the Braves. And you want to get Emilio Sosa in the lineup. But do you really want to play him in left field? Do you really want to play a player? Defense is really important, and that was not good for the Eagles last year. Defense was not good. So why would you want to? You got to put, especially if you have Zach Wheeler on the mound. Why wouldn't you have? And I don't know that they have a really good defensive left fielder. Why would you want to lessen your defense with? And I like Rob Thompson. Why would you want to lessen your defense with Sosa in left field? It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And that it didn't cost them the game, but it wasn't good. You hear the guys whining on the post-game show. Well, if it didn't happen that, they would have won the game. They should have, could have, would have. The Phillies played two of the worst teams in baseball the first two series between Washington and Colorado. So don't give me about shoulda, coulda, woulda. It happens. But the bullpen didn't do a good enough job, and that was the problem. So defense, and they got to figure out something in that bullpen to get things better. Now, I would talk about the Sixers, but does anybody really give a damn about the Sixers? Does anybody really? It is the most embarrassing. It is insulting. The way they play, the way they don't try to win. I can't say they try to lose because players don't try to lose. I can't say they try to lose. But damn, I mean, you got to be kidding me. It's just the team doesn't try to win. The players do. They put out a G League team. It's insulting. I bring it up. I don't know that it's going to be better next year. they'll get back McCain, which okay, but I don't know how he and Maxey can play together. I don't even know why I'm getting into this right now. Embiid, I don't believe it. Hey, listen, I don't know for sure, but I don't believe it's just arthroscopic surgery, and I don't think that's going to fix the problem. He's always going to be hurt, always going to be hurt, and that's a problem. So I'm telling you, I've mentioned before, there should be a class action suit by the fans because they've given you a promise of giving you an NBA caliber team, and they haven't come through with that promise. It's not legit. It's not an NBA caliber team. So class action suit. And I will join. I will join. I really will. I'll join the class action suit if somebody brings a class action suit against the 76ers. It is a joke. All right. I'm also going to urge people, if you want to make sure you catch all the podcasts, and you can go back and look at them if you don't get it live. Wednesday, 7:30, we're live. Saturday mornings, 8 o'clock. If you don't catch them then, you will be able to get on social media. And we're on all the platforms. First of all, I would urge you to subscribe to YouTube. You subscribe to YouTube, you're always going to be able to get it right there in a list. You're going to get whatever podcast you want to watch, whether you wanted to watch Charles Barkley, Dick Vermeil, Brandon Graham, whatever it is. So we're on YouTube. I suggest you subscribe. We're also on X or Twitter, whatever you still want to call it, Instagram, Facebook, and now we're also on Spotify, Apple, and I believe we might be on one other platform, but we're on all of them now. So you can get these podcasts. And again, I got many guests that I tentatively have scheduled for the future. I think Joe Theismann was terrific. I think Chris Sims will be really sensational. And he's got all the players. If you have questions for players, send in your comments and I'll write them down and I'll ask about that player. You can send it to my social media platforms and I'll make sure that I ask Chris Sims. And that is Saturday at 8 o'clock. Thanks for being a part of the Howard Eskin Show. Thanks for being a great part of the Howard Eskin Show, because you are a part of it, as well as our guests and everybody else. And thanks to Cut the Cord with Jason. It's a really, really great service where you can save money. Thanks to Piazza Property Pros, because they did work for me, and they're going to do the same great work for you. And Audi of Westchester, where I've got my Audi, and you will be really happy when you walk into the showroom. And I've mentioned this before, the used car pre-owned sales manager has the same first and last name. I'm not going to tell you. I'm just keeping it a secret. So you have to go in and ask for him, and he's going to tell you his name. Same name, first and last. I don't know that I've ever seen anybody with that, but he's happy with it. It's kind of a unique little thing. All right. Thanks again. And thanks for being part of the Howard Eskin Show. Take care. Have a great night. Have a great week. Saturday. We'll see you on Saturday with Chris Sims. Take care.